You're watching Fox 17 News, Nashville in Focus.
Happy Sunday morning, everybody. I'm Scott Couch. Decidedly cooler today, but we have some very hot conversation that's about to happen and hopefully warm everybody up, including all the way at your house. Let me introduce our guests and we will wade in. Steve Gill, he's a local attorney, publisher of TriStarDaily.com, and a conservative television and radio host. Good to have you, as always, sir. Kenya Magruder across the hall, Nashville native, one of the few. I know you don't run into him every day, and a Democratic strategist. Dakota Galban next to her, who's the chair of the Davidson County Democratic Party. Good to have you back again, sir. It's been a minute. And Victoria Pierce, a Republican activist, also haven't been on the show. In fact, I reached out to both of you guys. It has been too long since you've been on the show. Let's get you back in here.
About time. Glad to be back.
I appreciate you coming in. And guys, let's talk about one of the hottest topics, certainly in the last month. Of course, after the ice storm, there were great calls for accountability. Some people on this panel, Steve was among those calling for it. Well, we found out who's going to be on the mayor's sort of winter weather advisory committee. Among the names, former mayor and former governor Phil Bredesen. You've got former speaker of the Tennessee House, Beth Harwell. You've got the head of the local NAACP. You've got the general manager, and I don't know him personally. Let's see. Darrell Gillespie, general manager of Dickson Electric, so somebody who knows the electric, cooperative game. My question is anything good going to come out of this report? Do you think by the time it comes out, we're not going to be talking about it anymore? Your thoughts on the group that was assembled and whether this is even productive?
Yeah, no, I think this is exactly the type of leadership that people are looking for and expecting from the mayor. I think this is a really well-rounded group of individuals. You've got a former mayor, former governor. So the last ice storm that we had was under Phil Bredesen. So he
hadn't even thought about that.
He has that prior experience as well that he's bringing to this, and as the chair of this committee. So, the mayor's approval after the ice storm, they did a poll. It's still over 50%. So I think people still have a lot of confidence in his ability to be mayor.
It's come together faster than maybe some thought. Your thoughts, Victoria, and on the timing. How soon do they need to generate something to be relevant?
I mean, faster the better. I do know one thing. Whenever new committees are created, usually you get results at the beginning really fast. Now, are they going to be consistent? Are they going to keep us up to date? That's what I'm hoping for and looking for as well.
Your thoughts, Nashville native. Did you and you didn't, as I recall, didn't lose power?
I did, but I went to my parents' house. Okay. They had it. They were like Dakota. They didn't lose it.
So you were okay.
But what I'm going to say about this, I think this is a good group of people here in Davidson County, bipartisan, and really lights and power is not partisan. The fact of the matter is that we had something that happened in our community, and we need some results. I don't think that we should expect anything to happen super fast, because that's probably also part of the problem, is that we need for them to get to the minutia of what transpired and make some suggestions. Like one of the things I texted off to Scott before is, where's Nashville Davidson County's disaster plan? And I'm quite sure that that's going to come across this table, and you're going to get those kind of questions and concerns. So I'm looking forward to seeing them go to work and come out with some suggestions that we can move forward to. Because at this point in time, we keep talking about blame, but we're not actually putting together some actual things to move forward for. So I'm looking forward to it.
You make a good point. I mean, blame is, it's got to be assessed, but we need to do more than say it's your fault.
I think accountability and doing better and laying out the plans of how you're going to prepare better, respond better, and be more honest and transparent. I think the commission is made up of really good people. My question is, do they really have the authority to do anything? A question was raised with the mayor about Phil Bredesen.
They don't really.
No, Phil Bredesen has a conflict, and he said, but they're not going to be able to do anything, so there's no conflict.
Other than recommend.
It's an advisory committee.
So it doesn't really mean that anything will be becoming of it that could actually change policy. My bigger concern is that this is a step forward, and then you got 2 steps backward when we learned that NES has just spent tens of thousands, and it'll be hundreds of thousands, hiring PR firms and lobbyists to shield them from what that accountability might be. So, that seems to be like they're more interested in covering their rear ends with lobbyists and PR people rather than actually fixing the problem.
Now, let me ask you this. The Metro Council just a couple of days ago put the resolution that said we want the power board to fire the chair. They put that off. This is probably one of the reasons. Let's give these people an opportunity to say something. Does somebody have to be fired for something to come out of this that's good for all the people?
I think the CEO, who's reportedly being paid over $600,000 a year, is the one, you start at the top, and she's responsible for those under her. There may be others that are responsible too. The preparation was bad, the response immediately was bad, and the aftermath has been bad. The PR was horrible during the process. Everything was wrong, and you got to start at those who were responsible for it and make sure they're held accountable.
Let's pivot to this. The state legislature, in fact, we heard from Republican leadership. They've got the supermajority. They control both houses in the governor's office. And Kenya, I'll start with you. They were talking about, do we need to pass some sort of a bill that would give us, the people, more accountability? And they talked about how the fact that people outside of Davidson County who, are under the NES umbrella have no representation or say on the board. Your thoughts about that? Should the state stay out of it, or is there some role?
Well, I'm going to say this. I do believe that the state does need to stay out of it. They have a lot of work that they need to be focused on. And one thing is reaching into Davidson County business and getting themselves all into the focus. I think that they need to watch and see what's going to happen, and so that we can make some wrong some right. I do believe that the board has a lot of work to do. At some point in time, do they need to think about firing a CEO? Maybe at some point she does need to be fired, but they also need to find out what happened and start to figure out how to move forward with this and to make things right. I think that what has happened for us is that as a native, I have watched my city blossom since the time I left to go to college and come back home. And we are growing. And every time something happens, it is something that has happened because we have grown and blossomed so much. At some point in time, maybe some places that we are giving energy off to, maybe they don't. They need to have another corporation doing that. But we need to start thinking as a metropolis in a bigger city, and we also need to have the right people at the right time doing those things, and stop thinking like we are a small town. This is not Mayberry. This is Nashville, Davidson County, and we probably have more than 1.5 million people living here, and we need to start working as such.
I don't want to leave this topic, but I must squeeze in a commercial break. You're watching Nashville in Focus, and we will be right back.
You're watching Fox 17 News, Nashville in Focus.
I want to pick up the conversation, and that being, does the state legislature have a role in making something different on the board, giving another voice? Your thoughts, Victoria?
I think something really needs to change. You're right. We're growing fast. People need to recognize this. But I go back to the fact that the way it was executed was so poor, because we knew 2 weeks before, everyone was saying, get groceries. We're about to have, if it was snow, if it was ice, we knew.
It started out with 2 feet.
Well, of course, yeah. And then, of course, we didn't get that much. But the thing was, we knew this was going to be bad, and then we weren't prepared. And to me, that's like, okay, someone needs to be held accountable. It's not like we had an ice storm that came out of nowhere. This was something that should have been prepped for. And where are the people that are working?
And we did find out kind of along the way that they said, they had, I think when the lady testified before council the other day, she said we had like 240 linemen. Well, you didn't have 240 linemen on the street on Saturday. Why not?
Right.
Well, and again, there was a delay in getting the National Guard out, cutting trees and branches out of the road so that the linemen could get to where they needed to be. Again, everything was handled poorly, too slow, too delayed. And I agree with Kenya, at the risk of getting kicked off the show again. I agree that we ought to let Nashville and Davidson County and NES have an opportunity to fix the problems before the legislature comes jumping in with both feet. NES ought to buy their own. Say, look, if we're going to be selling power to Sumner County, we ought to have a representative from Sumner County on our board. They ought to have the opportunity to expand their board in recognition of reality. And if they don't, then the legislature should step in.
That seems fair. Now, you're not going to give him like a Davidson County Democratic card, are you?
I got that from the voucher.
It's a big tent. It's a big tent. Everyone's welcome in the tent.
Your thoughts on this? And that's the legislature. Do they have a role? Should they mandate, like Steve said, greater representation?
Well, the big government that in our state legislature, they like to stick their hands in everything that we do here in Nashville. And I think what you saw from the response of our state legislators was to point fingers and to place blame on people. They're not really actually interested in solutions. They're interested in blaming someone and in controlling things. And I think it remains to be seen that they do everything perfectly. And if you look at Lamar Alexander's quote this week in the Tennessean, he said that we're under single party control here in Tennessee. And he said, is that good for the state? I doubt it.
Well, you know, he was widely criticized. In fact, Joe Carr, who's a Big Bend State Republican, who's now the mayor of Rutherford County, attacked Lamar, essentially saying you're not right enough. That was a big part of his campaign. Lamar, while he was governor, worked with people in a bipartisan fashion. He did that at the University of Tennessee, and he did it in Congress. But it's just got to a it's not the world, to your point. Congress and the relationship that our lawmakers have. It's not the world you grew up in either, where even if you were the majority party, you didn't try to bury me because you knew at some point the shoe's going to be on the other foot and you hope that I'll work with you.
Well, keep in mind, we have a supermajority of Republicans in the State House and the State Senate. We control, 8 out of the 9 congressional seats, the governor's office, both Senate seats, because that's who Tennesseans have voted for.
Yes.
And maybe your Democrats ought to acknowledge that we're in power because we're doing the things that the people want. And when you have people that are not espousing the right issues and agenda, you're not going to make the gains.
I don't really think that that's it. I think that what has happened is that Tennesseans have become lazy. They keep seeing the same people running, and they are not showing up to actually see what's happening. When was the last time that you actually seen anyone on local news actually spend 30 minutes or 15 minutes talking about what happened at the legislature? People are hurting. Folks are losing their jobs. They're losing their power. We're cutting off EBT. Kids aren't getting food for the summer. It's so many things.
We're going to talk about that in just a minute.
And I just think that what's happening is that people just fall in line to do the same thing that keeps on happening. I mean, Democrats were in the superpower for a good amount of time, and the shift is happening, and now our state is crumbling. And
it was the late 90s when the Democrats no longer controlled both houses of the legislature and the governor's office. And
I don't think the state is crumbling when people are coming from all over the country to move here from California.
Well, they come to Nashville.
No, they're coming to the surrounding counties are where they're seeing the biggest
and
growth.
Those counties are blossoming because Nashville is paying the phone bill for them to get out here.
No, Williamson, Wilson, Rutherford, and Sumner are where they're moving.
And they come into Nashville too, and they play a part of it. And they're doing it because Nashville is getting. Hey, it's a reason why they're talking about what's happening at Acme Feed and Seed. Because the mayor wants to make some moves to help them, keep them going. But, you have Buchanan Street, and they're suffering, too, for what's going on, too. So Nashville is bringing the note, hey, we're on, was it New Year's Eve, and everybody's looking at us to drop a guitar? So, hey, Nashville's the best thing coming. So
they make a lot of money doing that.
We need some money,
really
and
do.
we need to basically act like it's coming.
You mentioned Acme Feed and Seed. Obviously, a lot of people that, have homes and stuff, your property tax bill went up. The guy at Acme Feed and Seed, Tom Morales, he's got some investors that are with him, but he said that, I guess this past year, his property tax bill went from either $136,000, $139,000 to like $600 and some odd thousand. And he told our Dennis Ferrier, just this past week, that's more than we pay in rent and our profit put together.
That is absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, and that's a Democratic mayor making these decisions for these prices and taxes. That needs to change if you want to protect our city.
That's who people voted for. They voted for a Democrat mayor.
And now they're getting to see the results, just like New Yorkers are seeing what Mamdani is doing after promising to cut taxes, promising to pass the money around. They're getting a full dose of be careful what you vote for because you can get fooled.
Hey, all I can say is that they can get into it and bring it to us, and let's work together to make it a better place to live, work, and play.
That's an old-fashioned notion. We're going to take a time out. We're going to be right back. You're watching Nashville in Focus.
You're watching Fox 17 News, Nashville in Focus.
In our last segment, Kenya Magruder, Nashville native, Democratic strategist, mentioned the EBT program, summer lunch. 53 of Tennessee's 95 counties sent the governor a letter within the last week urging him to re-involve our state in that. It's essentially money that the federal government doles out. And Victoria, we'll start with you. You haven't begun a segment. Clearly, there's some level of interest in this across the state.
I would agree, but from what I'm hearing on the Hill, the governor just wants a flat budget. I mean, I don't know. I think we're pouring in way more with the new stadium and everything, so he's trying to hone everything in.
Well, this is federal money that all he has to say is we'll take it, and they'll give you some federal money, which you can then turn around and give to the county mayors to help fund some school lunch programs. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct. And we also took $200 million from the big, beautiful, a big, bad bill to do something about rural health care. So why not feed people while we're trying to make sure that folks have better health care across the state? And I think that, hey, I'm supportive of them. I'm supportive of this because someone at some point in time is going hungry. And that's one thing that I always grew up is you don't want to eat it, but remember somebody around the corner, down the street, at this same time that looks just like you or whatever, they are hungry.
My parents used to tell me that about liver, chicken liver. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh gosh.
So, and I just think
I wish
that-
they could be here and eat it. You know.
And I just think that this would be the right thing to do. You know, you're going out the door. Be a good guy, Governor, and let's make sure that kids get something to eat this summer.
Were you surprised by that? Because most of the county mayors are Republicans.
Yeah, I think the real question here, though, is where's the fraud, waste, and abuse that we need to target? There are duplicate programs for summer feeding programs. So if we're taking this federal money,
too much food.
No, but if you have two funds going into the same place, we get Somali health care and daycare programs.
You know what, Steve?
Where people
I really
are
think
taking money.
that was really. I mean, I think that don't belong here at this table. Nashville Davidson County has not had that situation here locally, and we haven't had that situation across the state. I really think that if you're going to feed
Let's
these
examine
kids,
and find out.
you know
There
what?
is duplicated programs for federal
You know
programs
what?
funding
But the
kids.
thing of the matter is that maybe they need to find out like what other programs they can come across
Let's
the
see
table.
what the duplicates
But when you
are.
start bringing
Yeah.
us stuff that happened in another state, like that's not even.
I think
you know,
that's
we
a
don't need
fundamental
that.
difference between the Democratic philosophy and the Republican philosophy, which is if we feed one child, it's worth it if there's one person that's fraudulently eating a meal. But if there's one person that's fraudulently taking advantage of a program, it all has to go.
But the people that are fraudulently getting the money aren't feeding kids, they're putting it into their pockets.
But you know what? That's not even what's on the table. You got 53 mayors who signed a bill, a letter out of 95 counties that's saying, hey, we need help. And that's probably because we put all the money in the fat cats for vouchers, and that's why they don't have any money to feed their kids. So, I mean, realistically, we've taken money from places that has been good. Just write the check, take it from, from Daddy Trump, and let's, keep it moving.
Let's get to the truth of are there programs that are being duplicated that aren't feeding kids but are going into the pockets of scammers and fraudsters? It shouldn't be hard to figure that out.
Nobody
if there are two
has
programs,
even said
we should
anything
know.
about that, though.
Well, it has been raised, and that's what we ought to examine and see. The legislators are pointing out, the governor has pointed out, there are multiple programs that do this. We need to make sure that we are making the money go to those who need it, not to those who are stealing it.
He has said that, and I've got to squeeze in a commercial break and a new topic when we come back.
You're watching Fox 17 News, Nashville in Focus.
Our final issue would be a state big tent issue. There's a couple competing bills right now in the legislature that would put a cap of some type annually on how much your property tax can go up. Steve, one of them says no more than 2% a year. Now, in Nashville, though, and what happens, I, as a mayor, no matter Nashville or elsewhere, I have no courage, so I'm not going to tell you I need 2% because I want you to vote for me next year. That's part of the problem, too.
Yeah, I think part of this, and I hate to criticize our legislators for being me too, but Florida is getting ready to eliminate the property tax for residences, not for properties that are they're commercial. So it's kind of like, well, if they're doing it, we ought to be able to do something. And I think when you see the story like the multi-100% increase on restaurants and businesses downtown, there's a big call to say, wait, these increases are dramatically higher than anything we can justify. So let's slow it down, let's cap it, and I think there is going to be bipartisan support for this.
You know, I live in a county just outside Nashville, and I know at one time we hadn't had one for 10, 12, 15 years, something like that. And finally it got so bad they couldn't do anything. And then they had 2 gigantic ones, and in 2 years it was like 35% higher. I'd feel better if you asked me 2 or 3% at a time. Your thoughts?
Well, I think this goes back to local government being able to determine its own destiny, you know? And if you are capping the amount that we can tax the people in Davidson County, then you're limiting the services that we have here. So we're a growing county. We need to be able to pay our firefighters, our police officers, our teachers. And if you limit the amount of revenue that we can generate with this property tax, then those people are going to be the first to be laid off.
Is it maybe, and you know, in our state we only have primarily the sales tax, which, you know, folks pay that visit us, and the property tax, is that a part of the issue? Not that it's likely to change. We've only got those 2 real streams, the 2 big streams.
I mean, this is a big issue, and it comes at a time when so many people are pulled in so many different directions. We are dealing with what just happened with a storm, and we're still going to be playing an issue with this property taxes. And I think that we really got to sit down, going back to what Dakota said, and look at how it's going to impact. And I'm quite sure the legislators really don't care how it's going to impact the people who live, work, and play in Davidson County, because we happen to be the ones to feel it the most before anybody else. So I think that we're really going to have to see how much this is going to impact, and what are the projections for the economy for us across the state, and also what I would say what we hope for us, say Middle Tennessee, and for Nashville.
But this is about protecting the property owners, and I think with them seeing that cap of how high it can go up, you can budget with how much you're bringing in, and there is then like a cap of government involved in your property. I think that's a great idea. I think this is
the
right.
affordability of it all too is going to be
Is there an issue that maybe more money should come towards Steve's? You know, in Florida they're taxing, I guess, the corporations, and right now it's hard to argue that corporations don't get a pretty sweet deal in this state.
Right. I mean, that's why they're all moving here. That's why you have all the headquarters. You got, I mean, In-N-Out Burger, you have Oracle, right? They're all moving here. Maybe there's something we need to look into.
And then not hiring people from Nashville either.
Not that you don't want people and businesses to come, because you certainly do want their jobs, but it's complicated, and it's a good topic to talk about.
Hand out tax breaks like candy to these corporations.
Yeah. We are out of time. We always talk that we could do this for an hour, but we are flat out of time. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next week.